Okay, I think we'll make a start. Good morning, everybody. People seem to be joining us quite nicely, which is good. So yes, welcome. Could all fellow speakers please turn their cameras on, please? That would be great. Super. Well, here we all are again on a beautiful sunny morning, and lockdown is beginning to be eased. Um, so yes, I say, so good to see you all, and thank you to the Council for enabling this webinar to go ahead. We're concentrating today on the post-budget. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, presented his second budget on Wednesday, the 3rd of March. In his speech, he stated his budget meets the moment with a three-part plan to protect the jobs and livelihoods of the British people. Let's see if our panel of experts agree. This is what I picked up from the recent budget. The continuation of the furlough scheme, contactless payment limit to increase, corporation tax at present 19%, from April 23 it's going to increase to 25% for companies with profits over 250,000. Capital allowance, sorry, say it again, capital allowance until March 23 is set at 130%. And as the media has pointed out, this is like the government paying you to buy assets. I quite like that one. Free ports, creation of 10 across the country with attendant tax benefits. And I'm sure Alan will have something to say on that because we have our own little Freeport lobby going on at the moment. Reduced VAT for the hospitality sector until September 21. I think Georgina from Fuller's will have something about that as well. The restart grants up to 6k for non-essential retail businesses and up to 18k for hospitality, leisure, personal care and gym businesses. National minimum wage to increase and to be extended to 23 to 24-year-olds. And then one for Julia, stamp duty, a 2% stamp duty land tax surcharge for purchases of a residential property by non-UK residents. So I think quite a lot to get through. So first up, can I introduce Nick Farmer, partner at Menzies, who will be talking about, yes, obviously the budget. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Sally. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, yeah, thanks, Sally. Nick Farmer here from Menzies. I'm an international tax partner. Just going to run you through some of the headlines, actually, and some of the things which Sally mentioned there are clearly worth picking up on. From a personal tax point of view, not a lot changed, actually, partly because the government's hands are tied, that they've got this sort of triple lock on the main rates of tax. But they have frozen the allowances, which actually over the next 5 years will probably raise them about 20 billion as people gradually creep up into the higher rates of tax. But pretty much everything in terms of rates were frozen anyway, which there was some concern about the capital gains tax rates going up. They didn't go up, but maybe watch out in the next budget. Corporation tax rate increases. This was trailed ahead of the budget, and putting them up to 25% for profits above 250,000 is obviously quite a significant jump. And I just put a table on the screen there for you where that leaves the UK. If other countries don't follow suit, will actually be quite a high tax economy at that point, which is a significant change from the direction of travel that the government previously had, and perhaps allays some of the fears that the EU had when we left, that we were just going to be a low tax economy sitting on their borders. But yeah, we'll go above the OECD average, slightly below the G7 average, but still a high rate of corporation tax. This is trailed to raise about 50 billion over the next 5 years. It comes in from 2023. And as we said, those with profits of less than 250,000 still paying at the 19% rate of tax. Yeah, the capital allowance is quite a significant change and improvement. The UK hasn't typically been that strong in giving allowances for capital expenditure, but increasing the rate to 130%, significant, and 50% as well for this special rate pools, things that are integral to your building. AIA, the annual investment allowance, still continues on at 1 million until December 2022. So a good time to look at expenditure on capital items and get that enhanced relief. Loss carryback. This is potentially very useful for businesses which have been struggling during the pandemic, to be able to carry back losses for now up to 3 years, previously only 1, but up to 3 years now, and relieve those losses earlier and get a repayment of tax. Could be of significant help to business that. So that's certainly one that's worth looking at. And small companies or small claims, less than 200,000, don't actually need to go through a tax return, so could potentially be made earlier as well. Government definitely focusing on research and development, a very key area for them as they sort of reposition the UK economy now that we've left the EU. Very valuable deductions there, 230%. Available for qualifying expenditure. They are launching a consultation on this. One thing that they did in the budget was to cap the repayable credit, partly because the amount of fraud that goes through on research and development claims. And that's now capped at 3 times the PAYE and NIC of the business, plus 20,000. Yeah, slight mention there on property, and I'm sure this will get picked up elsewhere, but you know, the SDLT race extension and the band sort of dropping over a period of time, as well as this 95% mortgage guarantee scheme that came in. So some significant help there, perhaps, to get people into the property ladder. From an employer perspective, yes, good news that the furlough is extended through to the end of September, and there's some incentives there to attract apprenticeships into the business. There are some sort of incentives. One that we see a lot is around the share option scheme for EMI share options. That's going to be under review. Hopefully, we'll see it presented in even more positive light for businesses to get shares into the hands of their employees. Always watch off payroll working as well. This is a hot topic for the revenue at the moment. From an international point of view, yes, clearly the headline arose before the budget when you know, this trade and cooperation agreement went into place with the EU. Very significant that we do have one, but it is, you know, does allow goods to move free of tax, but you know, that's quite a lot of paperwork involved, and it's not always possible to get the zero tariffs. The free ports, there's a couple you know, that are local, one in Solent, one in Thames, and there's some very significant enhanced tax reliefs for businesses that set up in these free ports, and I think that's something to watch going forward. Movement of funds between UK and EU companies as well, always something to watch, and now we've lost use of these directives, and the repeal of the interest and royalties directives from June means that we're all now on treaty rates, and some of those treaty rates are above zero. Clearly quite a lot of anti-avoidance also goes through in budgets, don't always get the headlines, they never really get talked about at the actual speech itself, but putting up the diverted profit tax to 31% is actually a very high headline rate of tax for anyone who's seeking to divert profits outside the UK. Now, just final slide, really, just to say the UK is still regarded, you know, as a very easy place to do business. Anybody who's trading internationally probably experiences that, actually, given some of the difficulties that can be encountered in you know, overseas countries. Worth looking at this World Bank rankings if you've not seen it before. Easy to pick up on the internet, and gives a lot of good information about trading in overseas countries and some of the issues and difficulties involved. Yeah, as mentioned, there's some support measures still flowing through. This reduced VAT for the hospitality sector, you know, very significant. And finally, I guess the question is, what happens next? You know, there's a lot of debt that's being built up by the government. There weren't that many tax-raising measures in this particular budget, perhaps due to the state of the economy and obviously you know, the crisis that we're in. But perhaps this is one to watch for next budget, as the government may need to start looking at more ways to to pay back on the cost that's been built up over the last couple of years. So there you go. We do have more details on our website. If you want to drill into any of those points in more detail, there's a link there. Click on that, and there's further commentary on all of those key areas. So hopefully that's roughly in time, and I'll hand back to you, Sally.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick. I think it's a good question, what happens next? But I do quite like the world rankings that we're number 8, so that's quite positive. Next up, could I introduce Julia Quilliam from Quilliam, as an estate agent based in Brentford. Julia and I go back a long way. So Julia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sally. Hello, good morning, everyone. Yes, it's, gosh, estate agency has been a challenge since, of course, Brexit. In Brentford and the surrounding areas, we'd get a lot of overseas buyers, and of course that all just stopped, along with tax implications for landlords. Investment buyers dried up, and of course Brexit, the uncertainty of Brexit went on for so long, and of course with the pandemic it just nearly wiped us out, apart from having a portfolio of rental properties. So thank goodness we have that. So I didn't furlough people. I think I did for a couple of weeks, but we've always got maintenance issues which we have to look after. So that carried us through. And then of course the stamp duty holiday, which was a godsend. That was really, really helped us. But the whole buying and selling process became so slow. So we had this window of 6 months to get all these sales completed. And of course, because everybody's working from home and solicitors are working from home without their secretaries, nothing was getting done in time. Mortgage companies, surveys were falling behind. So the fact that we got the stamp duty extension, again, was a fantastic help. So now we have, it finishes at the end of June. We now have all these people trying to buy properties, and of course properties with gardens. Every house we've taken on has done really well. Every flat, nothing. And so prices on houses are strong, prices on flats aren't so strong, unfortunately. And then of course with the cladding regulations, that again is another problem. So anybody with a flat in the area who wants to sell is going to have a problem. Anybody with a house, fine. We now have people we just got the last few people. We took on a house yesterday in Lakewood Road. We've got 2 people who've offered the asking price. One's just gone above the asking price. And that puts us in a really difficult position because we have to upset people. And, you know, we had a house in Acton. We took on, again, garden. It ended up going 100,000 over the asking price. We had 18 people fighting over it. So a lot of people we had to upset, how disappointed people. The letting, so hopefully now all those properties will get through and exchange and complete before the end of June. But what happens then? What's going to happen to the sales market? We just don't know. Lettings, nobody wants flats. It's we've got so many just affordable 1-bedroom flats on, which normally fly out. I've always said to people, they're the best properties to invest in, cheap and cheerful 1-bedroom flats for single people, young couples who are just sort of working away and need to save up a bit of money as well. And we have so many empty. And we're reducing the prices, but that's not working. People seem to be wanting to move out of the area to get something bigger. And of course, if they're working from home, you know, one of the things about Brentford and Chiswick and Isleworth, Ealing, is we've got good transport links. Doesn't matter anymore. And again, properties with gardens, they're letting. We took on a house in Isleworth with a garden, and we've had lots and lots of viewings on that, and we're getting offers on that, but all the poor flats are sitting empty. So we're living in this weird is it a false economy? What is it? We just don't know, and it's very difficult for us to predict what's going to happen after June. It's difficult to tell people, to advise potential buyers, sellers, what is the market going to do. It's a really stab in the dark, but you know, we're here, we'll keep going, and hopefully the advice we're giving is right. So yes. Crystal ball, please.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you. Quite nice to hear what it's actually like on the ground. So as I say, thank you for that. Next up, Georgina Wald, Corporate Comms Manager at Fuller's. Georgina, over to you.
Hello, good morning. Firstly, Sally, can you just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me and you can see the slides?
Yes, both.
Brilliant. Okay. Yep, I'm Georgina Wald. I work for Fuller's, the West London former brewer, now a dedicated pubs and hotels business. We've got 216 managed pubs across the south of England and around 180 leased or tenanted pubs where they're run by a lessee or licensee as their own business.
Sorry, Georgina, are the slides meant to be moving at the moment?
No, not yet.
Oh, super. I'll keep quiet.
They are now. Hopefully they've moved now. So I just thought it would be good to have a quick look at where the industry, the hospitality industry was in March 2020 compared to now. So as you can see, March 2020, 3.2 million jobs. We generated 130 billion in economic activity and 39 billion in tax revenues for the Exchequer. Of course, at the moment, we are taking money from the Exchequer rather than contributing. We've lost, as an industry, around 600,000 jobs. 12,000 businesses have already failed. The lost sales is estimated at 86 billion. And we don't think trading will return to normal levels, possibly for as long as 18 months. That's driven partly, it's very interesting listening to Julia, partly that will be slow return to offices, of course, and also the return of the international tourist market, which particularly in London is most important. For Fuller's, we've publicly stated that the pandemic has been costing us around £4 to £5 million each month, is what we're losing. And when we announced our half-year results, the results for the end of September, for the 6 months so that covered from the end of March to the end of September, we showed a 22.2 million loss in adjusted PBT compared to the prior year, which had been a 17.9 million profit. So you can see the impact just on a company like Fuller's. The sale of the brewery couldn't have come at a better time, really, and obviously that did give us some capital in the bank. And actually, as our competitors were often doing equity raises, in fact, Wetherspoons have had 2 equity raises already. We thought we would, get through to the end, but actually the third lockdown in December meant that we've also now had to do an equity raise to raise capital for the company. So just the budget that came in, yes, we loved Rishi because we loved Eat Out to Help Out. Then we didn't like him because the state aid cap stayed even when we left the EU. But overall, I think it's fair to say that he did a budget that was generally favourable to the hospitality industry, but with some caveats around that. So the extension of the VAT relief of the 5% VAT relief is really helpful. But some of the pubs that are struggling the most are those traditional community boozers. Often they don't have an outside area, so they'd still be closed. And because alcohol is excluded, the VAT reduction makes little difference. And of course, a reduction in VAT makes absolutely no difference if you're not open, because you're not selling anything to pay VAT on anyway. The business rates relief extension was also welcome, but the 2 million cap will impact some of the larger businesses. And overall, business rates is an area we've been long promised a business rates reform. And we find it particularly galling, the amount of business rates that's paid by hospitality. And particularly if you take a rundown pub, you invest in it, you create new jobs, suddenly your business rates goes up massively and it's almost like a penalty for success. The extension to the furlough scheme has definitely provided a lifeline for many businesses. And I know one of the questions that that I've been asked is about redundancies. We won't be making any more redundancies. It's very interesting that hospitality has lost a lot of jobs, and also we've lost a lot of jobs without making redundancies. So we've always had a very diverse and cosmopolitan labour force, and we've seen a lot of people who have returned to their home country with no intention of coming back. So the job numbers are massively down, not just through redundancies, but through natural wastage. And the issue will come when we need to re-recruit those people as trading comes back to normal. Finally, obviously, the additional grants are welcome. And finally, we did get the increase in the state aid cap that was most helpful. And we've seen the freeze on alcohol duty, which is, again, warmly received. There is a bit of a campaign going on in various areas to look for a differential duty rate on draft beer, which again would help those community pubs because that's their point of difference from the supermarket. Moving on, I just thought that I would just quickly touch on the roadmap. Obviously, as everyone's aware, this is how it looks at the moment. From the 12th of April, we're allowed to open our outside areas only. 17th of May inside, but the rule of 6 and 2 households and all social distancing. And then what's generally being called Freedom Day, 21st of June, which is where we're all just hanging our hats on the 21st of June. And we genuinely need to see a total fall away of restrictions. Social distancing and masks is not compatible with a really successful pub. I put this picture here. This is a picture from the Rugby World Cup. We've got the Euros starting in June. The first England game, I believe, is on the 18th of June. Somebody will probably correct me if I'm wrong. But having, if England are successful in the Euros and those restrictions fall away, we've got a real opportunity there to try and make up for some lost business. So that's really where we're looking, and we are really going to hold the government's feet to the fire to reach that 21st of June. The vaccine programme has been amazing. I think people do know how to behave and they will keep the infection rates down, but we need to get people vaccinated, get to that 21st of June and get back to proper normal, not new normal. Opening up outside areas, only 40% of pubs opened on Monday. That gives you an idea of how many can't open, either because they don't have outside areas or because it's just not profitable. Running table service outside makes your margins very small because you need lots of labour to make that work. There has been heavy investment in the industry in outside areas. We've not publicly quoted a figure, but I would guess that between sort of £3,000 to £5,000 per pub for improving the outside areas, maybe. And I would think that's probably about the same across the industry. The councils have been very helpful in simplifying some pavement licence applications, which has made it easier to get access to additional space. But we have issues, particularly in central London, where we have a lot. If you think of that traditional street scene in the city or in the West End around Carnaby Street, of people standing on the pavement outside a pub, of course, we're not allowed that at the moment. And that's key to some of those pubs are so tiny inside that if you can't have people standing outside drinking and you're still paying central London business rates, that makes again your margins much smaller. And of course, it's terribly weather dependent. It is very cold out there. I don't know how many of you have been out to the pub already. I went on Tuesday night with my next door neighbours and sat there freezing cold. Cold is one thing. If it starts to be very rainy as well, then I think that will have a big impact. Monday was amazing. Everybody was packed out. This week's looking good. It does slow down after that once the novelty wears off, and then the weather will play an increasingly crucial role. I just thought I'd finish on a bit of a positive. Has anything good come out of the coronavirus pandemic? And I think certainly for our industry, the one thing that we've seen that's really come out is a massive acceleration of digital technologies. So things that would normally have been tried and tested over 6, 8, 9 months before being rolled out were suddenly rolled out in a matter of weeks. The way that we have used digital communication to keep in contact with our people. We've had 99% of our teams on furlough. In some cases, they haven't worked now for over a year. Keeping in contact with them has been really crucial. We've used a digital communications platform with video from the CEO to reach out to them. And also we've seen the rollout of systems like order and pay. And actually we've seen some interesting benefits around that. People suddenly have time to peruse the menu and the drinks menu more often. They're drinking different drinks. Often they're trading up because you're no longer making a decision quickly because somebody's in front of you waiting for an answer. So we're seeing that. And interestingly, there's in some cases we've seen tips rise as well, which is something that you might not expect. But because the team members aren't now waiting to take orders, they actually have more time to spend with the customers when they're delivering those orders. So actually we're not losing the personal interaction. And I think these are habits that will stay. And that's really it from me. I just thought that would give a little overview, and I thought it'd be nice to finish for once on something positive. You're on mute, Sally.
Sorry, brilliant. Thank you very much. And as I was saying, I've learnt a new expression, vertical pavement drinking. Haven't heard that one before, so I shall use that one quite a lot. It is such hard times though for us all. And obviously the fear is, with the Euros in June, the disease is still out there. We don't want it to be a breeding ground for the to have yet another lockdown. So we do have to be careful, but I can fully understand, we need to get back into our hospitality sector. Right, last up before Alan is Kate Ball, Hounslow Council, Head of Economic Recovery and Regeneration. Again, Kate and I go back quite a number of years, and I hate to say it, but Kate hasn't changed since I first met her, which is rather irritating. But there you go. Over to you, Kate.
Oh, I wish that was true, Sally, but thank you very much for saying that. I think the lighting's very kind in here. Yeah, as Sally says, I'm the Head of Economic Recovery and Regen for Hounslow Council. I'm just here today to talk to you a little bit about, give some insight into the ways the council is working to support the local economy, a snapshot of what we do, and obviously there's lots more going on, so do feel free to get in touch with any questions or comments afterwards if you don't get a chance during any of the questions. I've also got some pretty hard-hitting stats just on kind of where we are on a quantitative basis. We're really endeavouring to try and take a data-led approach in our recovery activity. But as well as the numbers, we're also monitoring the trends, obviously, that we've heard a lot of today through Georgina and Julia, the trends that are emerging per sector. And with that comes that, as Julia said, that crystal ball gazing of which trends are going to stay, which are going to evolve, and which trends are going to move on. So the economic consequences, as we can see, of the last 12 months have really not been felt equally either across the UK, across the borough, either spatially or per sector. Projections are suggesting a significant multi-billion pound reduction in local GVA. However, more immediately tangible is unemployment's grown by almost 170% since February 2020. We've gone from a borough that is a really hard-working borough that with actually very low unemployment to one that now we're really seeing. I think the one for me is we've now got 37% of residents dependent on, to some extent, on state subsistence, which has gone up from 11%, which is really quite significant. So moving on from that, we have works continuing in this kind of regionally, nationally, regionally, sub-regionally with the West London Alliance. We have the Build Back Better, and then locally we have our recovery plan, the One Hounslow Forward Together, which was developed in partnerships. And here you can kind of see the main, well, not the main, a kind of snapshot of the projects that are underway supporting local economic recovery, which is obviously taking in place with and then reacting to the ongoing pandemic responses. And we start programs, lockdown 2 hits, lockdown 3. We're just it's the same as the sectors really. We're having to work in and around what's going on. So we're now looking to build on these recovery proposals really, and the previous work as new evidence comes in, to better understand and plan for the longer term economic impacts of the pandemic and the implications and opportunities of those pre-existing and the new contextual trends, and how we work with that. And I'll touch on some of these projects just as we move forward. Very importantly, obviously, has been our grant distribution, which Nick touched on some of the grants that have been available, and Georgina. So since last March, well, since last April, we have distributed 53.8 million in the borough, which is incredible. So it's been a kind of a bit of a Herculean effort, really a huge effort to establish completely new, kind of flexible, accessible, responsive processes to enable businesses to get hold of these grants as quickly as possible. And the restart grants are currently, if not actually opening this week, I believe. So we think there's another about 1,200 businesses in the borough that are eligible for these restart grants, many of which would have received a letter this week notifying them that the grant is here and to get applying. And obviously we had the business rates holiday extension, which is great. I know the business rates issue, yeah, rumbles on as it does. But the benefit of the business rates holiday extension, we are seeing the odd pop-up coming into the borough, which is very exciting, with some kind of meanwhile uses. We've got a couple of new businesses starting up, taking advantage of the fact that they're not paying business rates in some empty properties. So, you know, the kind of green shoots of recovery do emerge and take advantage of these opportunities. Oh, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. So we've worked with the Chamber and other partners very much on our reopening the High Street safely, which was a European funding application. European funding bid that we had, well, money that we received. And here you can see kind of the current offer for businesses that we've got. So we've got some free one-to-one support for businesses, you know, in our town centres around reopening safely. We've refreshed the sector-specific reopening safely toolkits, and we're giving out free social distancing floor stickers. And we've got online courses about businesses getting online, that, you know, really improving that digital offer, as Georgina mentioned, is so important. This has been supported by campaigns aimed at residents to shop safely while shopping locally. And as Sally touched on, it's so important that we kind of do play by the rules now, so we get to that June date, that we keep those numbers low and everyone plays their part in that. We ran in December, although it had to be curtailed due to the current restrictions. But about to relaunch our campaign, that's going to be showcasing the range of kind of local independents in the borough. You know, we've got everything from amazing blacksmiths to beautiful stationery companies and website designers and everything in between. So we really want to make sure that local residents are staying shopping locally, and that trend is continued. In the trends that we've seen around people staying locally, it continues, and people buy locally and keep the Hounslow pound in Hounslow. So we're very keen to see that. And the current 2021 programme, the European funded programme, finishes in June. However, we've recently been informed there will be further funding for 21-22, albeit with a slightly different remit. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of exactly what that will be. There's going to be, we hope, money for things much more around dressing our high streets in terms of kind of getting people back out locally. So that might link with the Euros, that might link with, you know, having communal seating areas outside, kind of areas of restaurants, etc. So we'll be hoping to run a quick engagement exercise with local town centre businesses to see how that could be put to best effect. That money, I mean, it's not huge money, but it's something that we can do to support our local town centre businesses to kind of really drive that local footfall and kind of keep the residents engaged.
Sorry, Kate, I've been having problems to unmute, but I've now managed to do that. The slides are not, my slides are looking a bit strange, my end. Are they working for other people? Alan, are they working for you?
They are looking a bit strange, but they're working now, Kate.
Okay. Yeah. Are we on reimagining Hounslow's town centre now?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, was it just not flicking through? Was it flicking off?
Yes, it wasn't. And then we were getting a grey screen, and then I couldn't unmute to let you know. And it was the joys of technology.
And then Sally pulled her hair out.
Well, that was that one. Just that's some of the posters we're doing, some post planners to go around that on that one. But I mean, the text is. I don't know if you normally circulate the slides, but I'm happy to share them if that's useful later on. That's fine. One of our bigger projects, obviously, with the town centres is the pandemic's really added the impetus to thinking kind of behind that town centre regen. Those localized changes in trends of consumption, in terms of space usage, in terms of commuting, are still evolving, and we're not sure where that's going to end up yet. So it's all suggesting an alternative to kind of how historically we've approached regeneration and renewal activity. So the vision documents that we've been developing over the last 6 months are kind of a first step in this process, and drawing together like an agreed framework for how we can work together with partners in our town centres, ensuring that they evolve to consumer expectations and demand. So as well as kind of the knowledge gathered through the engagement that's been going on over the last 6 months, and they're also we've had Alison Young coming in doing some economic recovery strategies for the town centres. So there's kind of an economic basis to those as well, which is great. Sorry, I've lost my. Oh, where's it gone? I've lost my ability to flick through. Sorry, where's it?
And it's got stuck.
Yeah, it keeps. I keep losing the thing to the screen. Sorry. So another initiative we're running is our Keep It Local. The council is just one employer in the borough, and we're not by no means the biggest, but we are an anchor institution, and as such, there is we feel an obligation to make sure that we are setting the standards and kind of and taking our kind of making sure that the role we play in the local economy is kind of basically is part of a broader kind of community wealth building initiative. So how we can protect and grow the local economy and spend our money in Hounslow. So we've put in place new procurement regulations, kind of supporting its suppliers to employ local subs and provide local apprenticeships. We've ensured that as a council, we're making our opportunities more accessible, trying to break down, for example, construction work packages into smaller lots, so smaller firms are able to apply. Oh, it's gone again.
It's not being very clever at the minute.
Sorry, I don't know why it keeps just freezing. As I talk, I suddenly realise it's gone again. So we've spent 25.7 million with local suppliers since January 2020, and are hoping to vastly improve that over the coming year. And obviously, we want to then kind of roll out that campaign and support our local, especially the kind of the global headquarters in the borough, to also buy local and spend their money in Hounslow. One that I'm really proud of is our new initiative in Brentford around affordable co-workspace. So it's been a long-term kind of flag for the council in terms of the lack of affordable workspace, particularly in the east of the borough, for freelancers and self-employed organisations. And as part of our Creative Enterprise West, our Creative Enterprise Zone, we had a lot of demand coming through for that. And that kind of got accelerated with Councillor Curran identifying one of our own units, and that kind of, again, that ensuring that the council is using its own assets for a community purpose and community benefit is fantastic. So we have an empty shop unit in Brentford that has been refurbished and will have capacity for up to 40 people, and that's going to be on an affordable basis. And we'll have a digital studio. It's all super fast broadband, and I wish I had a new picture of the inside for you, but we've had a slight delay due to Brexit on our import of furniture, so we are hanging on to kind of open, which is a bit of a shame. But yes, as soon as it can, we'll kind of do a bigger splash. But a really exciting new initiative for Brentford, and will hopefully drive new footfall and bring new places and allow a new space to kind of collaborate in Brentford, which is fantastic. And that's me. If you want to get in touch, that's my email. We have a kind of a town centre emails for generic inquiries, and kind of that rather long URL, sorry, is our kind of main business support pages in the borough.
Thank you very much indeed, Kate. And only sorry the slides were being a bit glitchy, but no worries. No, we've definitely got the gist. And living in Brentford, it's interesting. I go past the digital dock quite often. And it's nice to note that a local graphic artist, Simon Cohen, has been working with me, which is great. And he's a chamber member. So that's
Indeed.
always good.
We've
Yes.
used all local contractors. We've got a local carpenter. We've got local, yeah, like you say, Simon, and then there's furniture supplier is local. So it's all been very nicely tied through.
Good, good, good. Right. Last up, Alan. Alan Rise is our MD, Hounslow Chamber of Commerce, and also West London local chambers. Alan, do you want to say a few words?
I'm going to share a screen a second because something resonated with me, what you just said. Look what's in the local newspapers.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
Hounslow Council are ahead of the game. What's going on? This isn't something councils are normally famous for, but we seem to see it in Hounslow. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Let's see if that can be taken up, what traffic we can drive towards it, and how we can try and make it a success to be rolled out in other parts of the borough. That would be really good. I can send this over to you if you like, Kate.
Yeah, fantastic. We are seeing it very much as a pilot, and there's plans to potentially allow Hounslow House to have some co-workspace in there. So there's lots of areas we'll be exploring on that. About it's been flagged for a long time about the lack of affordable workspace across the borough. So yes.
Okay, superb. Yeah. So I've got a few questions to ask. Not much to say as usual, but perhaps starting with you, Kate. The 21-22 funding that you mentioned. When do you think that would be starting to be rolled out to local business, the grants that are available? And I've heard some talk about a welcome back fund to the high street. Is there anything there that we can do to help? Sally and I with the council put in some proposals a year and a bit ago for a business improvement district. If it's something that's in the council's mind, we're very happy to dust off the shelf and update our proposals. It's something that we're very keen to make sure we can both get the high street to work together. We've done a lot of hard work with yourselves with the Safer Business Hounslow COVID-19 and Support Your Business project. We'd love to continue that if that's something that would be of interest to the council.
Yeah, so the few things that, so the grants, the restart grants should launch this week, so they should be out going through. So that will come out. The welcome back fund, yes, the one I touched on the European, the extension. So that we haven't got the full criteria yet. We've only got the initial letter saying it's going to happen. So we're kind of having to wait a bit until that comes, because it's European funding, as everybody knows. It's always, full of weird red lines and kind of and hoops.
As Nick will relate to, if you export to Europe, it's full of red lines and red tape and issues now going forward.
Yeah. But this one, on the face of it, seems to be much more flexible. So last time it was very, very tightly defined exactly what we could and couldn't spend our money on. And this one seems to be more flexible. So as I said, it might be that we can set up on Bell Square, we could turn it into a summer garden with communal seating, if that's what local businesses would want in terms of, do you know what I mean, to allow businesses that don't have outside space to kind of allow their customers to eat outside.
I think it would certainly help the Bell pub that doesn't have any outside availability now, but a great big square in front of it, and breathe some life into that end of the high street. Yes.
Or potentially we're hoping we might be able to do some events like that. There's talk of, in the letter they mentioned mini festivals. So again, it could be linked to something like the Euros. It could be linked to all sorts. So until we get the criteria, we're a bit stuck, and we kind of always also want to make sure that we're kind of doing stuff that local businesses want us to do. So I think we'll probably try and run some kind of very quick and easy mini kind of survey thing through, an online bit that goes out to town centre businesses, that they can kind of say, look, yes, festivals sound brilliant, and this is the best time of year we want to do them because it's a bit quiet, or it's capitalising on other footfall or whatever that may be. Or no, we don't want communal seating areas there because we actually want people to come into our restaurants, or whatever it may be. But I don't think we know exactly what the business market needs, so we want to make sure that link is there. But there will be some money, I think, for more ongoing kind of the more formal business support, the online courses, etc., etc. Some of it will go on to that, I would think. So
I guess the most important thing for businesses is they hear these wonderful announcements in budgets from Rishi, and then they say it's made available to you via your local authority. And then people from the local authority, their ears prick up and say, oh, it's coming to me now. I wonder how long it's going to be before it actually arrives and we can actually do something about it.
And how much it is when it actually arrives. Yeah, exactly.
It's all the way down, yes. The thing that happened at the beginning of lockdown before was that different local authorities made decisions about how they should process the grant applications. Ealing decided that they would pay out immediately and then investigate for fraud. Hounslow decided that they would make sure that they were valid claims before they paid out. People in Ealing then realised that there had to be a bit of a clawback, and that was a problem. But as soon as people in Hounslow realised what was going on, they accepted and knew what the timeline was. Is there a way, what's the timeline now? Is something similar, or can you use the information that you got the first time round to then speed up the process?
Very much. For the Restart grants, they're also, they are obviously, a lot of the organisations will be almost pre-approved because we've got all the information, you know what I mean, that it will be so quick. So the application form is really simple, because generally because of the nature of the Restart grants, they're generally all businesses that have already had a grant in some form. So the application form is very much designed not to be regathering all that information. It's going to be very quick. But also we were only able, this time last year, we were only able to run a payment every 2 weeks, which sounds okay, but actually for many businesses that wasn't quick enough. And at the moment we're going to be running it at a minimum of every 2 days, but hopefully every day, in terms of those grants going out. So it literally will be, you'll apply and within like 2 days, 3 days, you will be getting your grant. So it's a much quicker turnaround, and that whole focus is getting those grants out as quickly as possible.
A lot of business will be delighted to hear that news from you. Thank you so much, Kate. Georgina, can I ask, from a wonderful advert for the Prince Blucher pub in Twickenham, which is a well-frequented place, vertical pavement drinking Sally latched onto. What a wonderful phrase. Much better than horizontal pavement drinking, I suppose. And I couldn't resist spotting that our chairman had noticed that there was a vertical refreshment company once in the city. One of the things that happens traditionally in Europe is table service. It's new largely to the UK, and with the pandemic it's mandatory. But one of the things that happens in Europe when you get table service is you tend to leave a tip. And it would be really good if there could be some type of advertising for people to leave tips, I think, in pubs, just to sort of prompt them a little bit more as a gratuity for the bar staff that bring the drinks over.
To be fair, I think that does happen probably more than you realise already. So certainly some of our pubs where they're very food-led will have a service charge. And actually people do tend to leave tips as they are. But I think fundamentally though, it's really important that we don't lose the things that make the great British pub unique. And that is that we offer a service to elderly customers, lonely customers who come in, sit at the bar or stand at the bar, see their friends. These are not people that will go for coffee at someone else's house. That's not in their nature. And if you do not put drinking at the bar back, we will lose that forever. And that would be a real shame, not just for the pub industry, but for the people that actually rely on it. And I think sometimes you can be in a bit of a London bubble, and when you go further out into the countryside, it's even more important. I think loneliness is at a record high, and I think at the moment there is a massive problem that's being hidden because nobody's out. And when that starts to come to light, people are going to realise just how much they're missing that kind of human contact.
So there's an awful lot of money being spent at the moment to say support your local high street. And one of the key things down your local high street is your local pub. And going for a beer, going for some food, going for a shop, all seems to me to link together. And if you can bring all of that together in one day's or afternoon's outing, would be a benefit to everybody. what can we all do to support our local pub? What's the definitive message you'd like to get out there for us all?
Get to the pub. It's as simple as that. Yeah. I think it is. I think it's actually about don't go just because it's exciting that it's reopened. You know, you need go regularly, and don't forget that you don't have to go to the pub because you want a pint. You know, we do great coffees, we do amazing food, we do brilliant breakfast in an awful lot of our pubs as well. So you know, the pub is so much more than just somewhere to go for a pie and a pint.
And Sally and I used to have a regular monthly lunch pub meeting for the chamber in a Fuller's pub just behind the Treaty Centre called The Sun.
Oh, The Sun at Richmond?
No, The Sun in Hounslow.
Oh, the Rising Sun at Isleworth, is that the one?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's a tenanted pub, yes.
Right. So look forward to doing a bit more of that. Nick, can I ask you a couple of questions as well?
Also, Helen, there were some questions in the question box as well. So you go first, then I'll ask my two.
Okay. Last one then for Nick. You mentioned a bit about free ports and the benefits. Can you tell us the difference between an associated free port that Heathrow is applying for and the free ports that you've mentioned in your presentation?
To be fair, I can't.
We don't really know either. We'd love to somebody to tell us.
I haven't delved into them in that great depth. All I will say, Alan, is we'll be running a separate webinar on this very point about free ports. Why are they coming in? What are the government trying to achieve? What are the tax breaks that are being given for businesses that locate into them? The government clearly see this as a key part of their strategy now to build the economy. Now we're outside of the EU, they've got to obviously reposition the country. I mean, technology is one of their big areas. AI is being sort of pushed as an area, and that's why we're seeing these enhanced reliefs around research and development. But the free ports, the ability for people to manufacture within them and import and export without actually bringing the goods onto the mainland. I mean, there have always been free ports. You know, it's not potentially new. It's just that it's going to be something which is pushed more. There's obviously areas which have applied for and have now been given the permission to become free ports, and you know there'll be designated areas where businesses will be able to set themselves up. So it's going to be a change. And as I say, there's a couple, the Thames and the Solent, which were some of the successful applicants. So I think this is something to watch. Businesses to think about their model, whether it makes sense to look to try and establish themselves within those areas because it makes sense for their business. It's all about employment, of course, and trying to create jobs through those sort of areas where there's tended to obviously been less economic activity. So it's a little bit of watch this space, as I said at the beginning. We will delve into it as a firm. I mean, as you know, Menzies do a lot around the international support for business, especially around the changes that happened from the recent trade agreement with the EU. So this again will be a piece that we'll focus on, and if businesses are able to tune into that, we'll give them more information at that time.
Brilliant. If you could just let us know the date of that, we'd be happy to publicise it, because I would very much like to be on that, to attend that myself.
So would I, absolutely, and to bring Heathrow into it as well, with 40% of the UK's exports going out through Heathrow. It's such a vital point to make sure that they expand that free port position. As Kate's noted in the comment box, the impact on Heathrow freight levels is a major point to keep a monitor on, because it'll enormously affect employment levels in our borough.
Definitely. Right. A quick question for Nick from one of our people who actually couldn't be here today, but she asked me to put the question. She runs a travel company. Is there any possibility that the government might extend the bounce back loan repayments? They have still almost received no income, and basically, it's not looking good for her company.
I don't know about the sort of extension side of it. It's been a reasonably sort of successful and well-used scheme. I think if you could just forward me Kate's email or something of that nature. We do have part of our team that focus on this area, and I'm sure they'll be very pleased just to have a direct call with her and to give her as much information as they can around what they're seeing on the ground.
Yeah, definitely, we'll do that. Thank you very much. And also another quick question by an attendee. How can the events industries be helped by the new budget? Again, one for you, do you think, Nick?
Possibly. I mean, also obviously Georgina focusing on that area. I mean, we do have quite a lot of clients in the events sector. It seems to be one which has obviously been massively impacted. I mean, there are some areas in what I said around the sort of loss carryback. Businesses over this period have probably been making quite significant losses, and they do need to look at that and whether they can now carry them back for those 3 years. It was only 1 year before now, it's now 3 years, and get a repayment of tax there. So there are areas within the sort of changes that came through on the budget that may be able to help some businesses that are struggling like that. Events businesses sometimes actually interesting, do quite a lot of work around, do have some sort of R&D in there, or they may have capital expenditure where they'll get enhanced relief. So I think you have to look very closely at the business itself and see if there are incentives, reliefs available, or opportunities for tax repayments. So a good sort of bit of housekeeping around the business may identify some areas that, you know, certainly that sort of sector may be able to benefit from.
Thank you. George, anything to add from you? From your no? Okay. I'm looking at the time. We've got a minute to go. Talking about live events, Hounslow Chamber, we're sticking our head above the parapet, and we are holding our Regeneration and Regrowth event conference on the 24th of June at the Holiday Inn, Brentford Lock. Please do try to be with us. We've got an awful lot of the major developers coming along. All those apartments going up in West London. Hopefully with access to gardens, they have to be sold. So please do try to be with us for the 24th of June, our very first live event. Yeah, we're a little, well, I'm a little bit twitchy, but it's going to be good.
Regeneration and recovery event will be fantastic, Sally.
Yes, no, it will be. I just think we're all just, we've all got so used to being a little cocoons at home. It's going to be very interesting getting out there again. But no, as soon as it's underway, it'll be brilliant. Again, supported by the council with an awful lot of speakers from the council, which will be great. And hopefully you will be there as well, Kate. I think that wraps it up. I would like to thank everybody for this morning. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Oh, Alan, do you want to just quickly do a plug for the webinar on the 22nd of April, Incoterms?
Sure. We've got an event on the 22nd of April based on exporters locally having problems trading with the EU. Nick will understand this well. It's all about VAT, it's all about freight, it's all about the new Incoterms that came out a year and a bit ago, which will dramatically affect whether you pay VAT or import duty, or if your customer gets a nasty surprise when the goods arrive that you send them in France, they decide that they want to send them all the way back, and they're rapidly filling up warehouses around Heathrow at the moment. Please come along on the 22nd. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. Have good days, and good luck, George, with the opening up of all the Fuller's pubs. All right.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Julia.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Cheers. Take care.